welcome to reference group, Steve and Steve from Kelso Industries. Woo! Thank you, good sir. Thank you, good sir. Good job, all of you. Good job, everybody. Very well done. Okay, yeah, grab your chairs. We get this party started. I'm gonna grab our little clicker here so we can go through the story. One of my friends, Adam Garrelot, he's one of the most beautiful men I know, told me a little over a year ago he was gonna work for this company called Kelso Industries. I was like, what the heck is Kelso Industries? And so we're sitting at the gym. Well, I mean, he was working out, I was sitting, and got to learn a little bit about what he was doing and what Kelso was doing. And I became super interested in like the premise and how quickly you guys have grown. So first of all, congratulations. I don't know a lot of companies in the world of tech who get to $1 billion in revenue in 4 years. So to get to $1 billion in revenue in anything is incredibly hard. So can we give that a round of applause real fast? Super dope, super dope. And I think for everybody here, I try to talk to people before the start and be like, hey, why'd you come today? What do you want to get out of this? Why did Trent fly across the country? I think the goal today is to kind of unpack what that story looks like and what are the things that people can copy? What are the things that they can't? Like, what are the unique insights that you all had that made this so you could do it? So, so that's the goal today. Now, if we're in the story and you all have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. Like, I want this to be as educational as possible for everyone here. There will be the opportunity to talk for a little bit afterwards, but don't be shy. If there's something you want to unpack, you know, raise your hand and I'll call on you. Sound good? Okay, cool. So let's start with the name. Let's start with you two. Like, what makes you you? Like, take us back to the old school, literally.
So Steve and I, we grew up together. His mom actually did my baby shower. So our parents have known each other for as long as we've been alive. My family moved out of that town, then moved back in 4th grade, and that's really when Steve and I became friends at Kelso Elementary School in the 4th grade, and really kind of stayed friends all the way through college. We were roommates at BYU, and we grew up in a small kind of rural town in Oregon. I worked on a farm, my grandparents' farm, and Steve's family had a nursery farm, so we had kind of a hard-working, blue-collar, dynamic background. So
before you go, Steve, will you add the part about your elementary school shop?
Okay,
because I think this is super helpful for you to understand.
My first taste of business, I told you during lunch yesterday, was, I think it was in 6th grade elementary school. Our class did a school store for the entire school, and we sold shares to buy the inventory. And I'd been working on my grandparents' cattle and raspberry farm, and so I had more money than the other 6th graders, and I bought a controlling stake in the school store business, and you know, pretty much anything I said went. And I think I turned $40 into $160, and the other kids were working for me at the school store, and I just thought that was the greatest thing. Versus, you know, being out in the hot sun or cold rain working on the farm. Like, oh, I turned 40 and 160, and other, you know, through investing in the school store company, and I was kind of hooked ever since on the idea of kind of taking that grit of working from the farm and leveraging that into the business world.
Thank you. I think it's just great color. Now you got it, Steve.
Steve and I grew up trading basketball cards back and forth. So we took advantage of our deal-making, terrible deal-making with terrible basketball cards a long time ago, too.
Not a great long-term asset class, unfortunately.
Terrible return. I think my mom threw away my whole box of all of my amazing deals that I made.
I love that. There's a picture from their days that I just wanted you guys to see. Which two are you?
Steve's in the Mariners shirt. And
Steve Nicholson's in a headlock.
I'm in a headlock right there, yeah.
Okay, so they've been boys for a long time. I just thought that was like a fun reference. Like, this is not their first rodeo as homies. They've been through headlocks together. Yeah, so Before you get to Oxbow, talk about like what you all were doing before you guys got together.
So I went to BYU, studied construction management because I didn't want to be in an office, and got into construction and worked in an office. Did that for a while, and wanted to just round out more of my knowledge, and met a few of you at MBA school back at BYU again, and just again wanted to round out my knowledge. And I went to Walmart corporate in Arkansas. Thought I'd be there 1, max 2 years. I was there 7 years. Really enjoyed the time, learned a lot, but always had been bugging Steve to go do something like what we're going to show you guys now and what we're talking about today. And Catherine knows, Gabrielle knows, a few people that have known me for a while. I've had the bug for a long time. Tons of stupid ideas, but one that's worked pretty well, and just didn't give up on the ideas side of it.
Yeah, I took a more boring, traditional route. I did a couple years of investment banking at a undergrad, and then we moved from San Francisco. Told my wife, who's back here, that we were going to be moving from San Francisco to Baltimore for 2 years.
How long was Baltimore?
9. 9
What a nice wife.
long years. 0 to 10 recommendation on Baltimore. Worked at one private equity firm, and then one of the partners was going to leave to go do another firm, and so I left and started a private equity firm called Access Holdings, and started as an independent sponsor, did a few deals like that, and then raised a fund, and kind of kept on waiting for things to get better. And I was like, I don't like living in Baltimore, and I don't like my partner, and eventually just kind of got to a point where I'm like, I don't care how much I'd be leaving behind. It's not worth it anymore. And remember, came home on like October 31st of 2019, told my wife, I'm like, hey, I quit my job finally. And I had told Steve many times I was going to quit, and had always told my wife, man, Steve just keeps on swinging at stuff. Eventually, he's going to hit on something. And part of my exit from my firm, I kind of had agreed to not work for a year, a non-compete period, and we were going to go travel the world, and then COVID hit, and we were stuck in Baltimore, and ended up doing a road trip out to Utah, stayed at my in-laws told them 4 weeks, and we stayed with them for a year and had another kid, and yeah, we never left Utah.
So I just want to pause because I think there's a lesson here from both of them. Steve C, I'm going to say Steve C here. Steve C was willing to continue to make swings. You were continuing to swing. You were continuing to like grind and work.
I never wanted to swing.
You never wanted to swing. And I think, how does it go to where you guys actually become partners now? Let's just talk about that. Like, how do you, the homies, you've been checking up on each other, you've been trying to get them to join. What's the flip? What switch happens?
I mean, Steve got me at a weak spot where for a year I got paid to not work, and so those ideas that he was throwing out started to hit.
Started to sound a little better.
Yeah.
I had been pitching him stuff that Steve has a good filter of private equity, what didn't look good, but I didn't. So I was pitching him on all sorts of stuff that I was trying that wouldn't work for private equity or wouldn't scale. And I think once we got closer to the blue collar strategy, started to use his filter of what he's learned to say, yeah, something like that sounds good. And we narrowed it down and eventually landed on HVAC. But we looked at restoration businesses. There's one here in Utah County we were here looking at. Landscaping. We looked at a lot of different industries, and there's a lot of great industries to go do this in. Doesn't have to be HVAC, but there was one down the road from me in Arkansas that in 2020 we thought we were going to go start with.
Yeah, and so let's unpack the journey of like doing the diligence on that one. You were excited about the space, you got into it, and where did it fall apart, and what did you learn from that one not happening? Even though you put a lot of work into it, let's talk about like how grateful you are that it didn't happen.
I thought I would just keep my job at Walmart and do this on the side and we were gonna find this little business down the road because we didn't want to move. Arkansas turned into home for us, and we were gonna buy this business down the road, and I was just gonna keep my job. And the business wasn't very big. Steve was supportive, but he's like, you got to deal with it because I'm not moving to Arkansas. And so I'm like, okay, great. How am I going to manage this? And in the middle of diligence on this business, the general manager for the company quit. And that was kind of a, oh crap moment. And the general manager was one of the main salespeople in this business. So the sales started to tick down as we got closer to closing. And a week or so before close, the operations front, somebody in the business that managed a lot of the office came to me and said, I want a $40,000 raise. And we were doing the math and we're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna lose money every month at this point if we buy this business. And I give Steve Nicholson a lot of credit. He said, if you wanna do it, I'll still support you and partner with you on it, put the money up that I was gonna put up. And I sweated over this thing for weeks and weeks, and to Steve's credit, he said he would do it, but just ultimately decided we're gonna have to pass on that. And the lawyers and the SBA fees and the plane tickets and everything, that's hard to do.
Yeah, because you had some costs in there, right? For
Yeah.
Sure. So as entrepreneurs, like that's, the thing that you have to do is not stop, right? Like if that would have been it, then all that is sunk cost and there's no benefit to the learning. But you choose not to stop, you keep going, and eventually you find a company in Arizona. Talk a little bit about like what that then looks like and how you get to acquiring that.
What do you remember from that time frame?
I just remember you said like, hey, there's this business in Arizona, it's $2 million of EBITDA, and like, okay, like that's a little bit more of a real business than what we were looking at before. And even at that time, I wasn't fully committed to doing something with Steve. I was like, all right, as soon as this year kind of winds up, I'm either going to go work for some other private equity firm. And I think the longer I stayed in Utah, the less interesting that became. We're like, oh, like my family likes it here. I'm like, I'd been on the East Coast for 9 years and I didn't like it, but I love being here. And it's like, well, we'll kind of see if something happens with Steve first, or this year runs out first. And he said he found this $2 million EBITDA business in Arizona. It's like, okay. And it's like, we'd kind of been going down this residential path, and there's already been a lot of private equity firms doing resi HVAC roll-ups, and the multiples had started heating up already. And then, I never even thought about the commercial HVAC space as an investment to do, candidly. And I started looking at it, and I'm like, oh, I actually kind of like this better, and
the multiple was better.
The multiples were way better. There were public comps like Comfort Systems and MCOR. They're publicly traded, even today, much larger than us, traded at really good multiples. And we're like, all right, so people have done this successfully.
Yeah.
There's a liquid market for us to go build something and sell it, which is kind of where my private equity mind always goes. It's like, how am I going to get out of it? Yeah, like it. The multiple makes sense. It's a big enough market. Like starts checking all the stereotypical PE boxes.
That has to be true.
We're like, all right, we'll go figure it out.
So yeah, you want to add there?
Yeah, from Steve's standpoint, it was great, probably because I used all my money to buy all the plane tickets to go out and go visit all these folks, and eventually I was like, oh my gosh, we need to do something. This is adding up. At the same time, Steve would tell me he was interviewing for some of these other jobs, and the pressure just got a little, there's timing's such a big deal in this whole thing. Money's part of it, but timing's a big deal. So
if he's not taking that year off, you're probably not here today.
Correct. For our story.
Yeah, for your story, the way it looks like it.
Yeah.
So I want to unpack this a little bit. This first deal is takes a long time to get to. The purchase price is $7 million, so 3.5 times the EBITDA. You then say okay, how are we going to get this $7 million? You had gone down the path of SBAs. They kind of cap it at 5, so not awesome. You find an equity partner who puts in a good chunk of the 7. Can you talk through what that story looks like, how you get that to close.
This,
Is there a
that
slide?
first slide, going back one more, was the Saturday after we realized that we're kind of screwed because SBA will only give you 5 million. And we just had to piece this thing together, and we just cranked out a deck. I don't know how many slides we ended up putting in there. This presentation today, I think, has 3 or 4 of the 17 that we jammed together over a weekend. But
Do you want to click through it?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll let you kind of drive here.
But this was fun because
hit the down button.
Steve came up with the name Project Saguaro, and I was like, this is gonna work. It's gonna be awesome. I made sure Steve had a lot of words on his bio, so that was good. This slide we wanted to put in here because if you want to raise money, you've got to convince your investors that you've got a plan to actually go do it. This was a little bit of toothpicks and bubble gum, just putting stuff together, but some of this actually came to pass. I was looking at this last night. On the right, under acquisitions, at the very top, it says MJ Mechanical. We actually bought that business 5 years later.
Just recently?
Yeah, like a couple months ago.
January, February.
Congrats.
So a couple of those other ones got swooped up from our competitors. A couple of them are still available for us to acquire. But we didn't really ask each other for too much permission. I think that Friday we said, oh man, we need to do this. And you do those 6 slides and I'll do these 6 slides and let's just put it together and let's get it done. And I think Steve sent it out the next Monday. Is that the way you remember it?
Yeah, it was like kind of over a weekend. We were like, all right, let's pivot. Let's go raise external capital and do it. Because before we were looking at deals we could probably just buy ourselves. And for my career in private equity, even when I was at a larger fund, the partner I worked with always wanted to do larger deals. So I'd never actually done a deal where we didn't have some level of co-investment. So I'm just like, all right, like it's just like every other deal, got to go find the rest of the money and put this deck together. And we reached out to Peterson Partners here locally. And like normally I'm used to sending out the 100 people, constant follow-up, and it all kind of comes together at the very end. And I sent to Clint and Spencer Clausen over at Peterson, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll do the deal. And they're like, oh, okay, like that was, and Steve's like, oh,
That's how it works.
That's how it
always
works. It's
right?
like this raising money thing is like super easy. Like, what are you always complaining about, Steve? And they're like, so like literally did not send this deck out to anybody else except those guys. And they're like, yeah, I had known them for a long time. My prior firm, we'd done a big roll-up of funeral homes, and so had they, and we looked at buying their business and had looked at merging one of our tech businesses with one of theirs, and I did a big roll-up in life insurance that ended up being really successful, and
So your track record gave Peterson the comfort to go do
They
this.
knew my track record.
Yeah.
I was a known quantity to them. I'd been talking to them about various things for years, and so I think when I had a deal and wasn't a huge check and it was a cheap multiple, it was like, I don't want to say that's like how their IC goes, but it was like, yeah, we'll do the deal. And didn't have to go to anybody else, and we did that first deal all equity, and Steve and I really bought ourselves a job.
Okay, cool. What other slides you got here you want to run through?
This slide's pretty cool because you can see in 2021 or 2020, when we were getting the financials for this business, they were doing about 2 million of EBITDA. And the goal by 2025 was to get to about 10 million of EBITDA. And
Which I would, like as an investor, I would normally consider that to be overly aggressive. Like, that sounds like a little too good to be true, but keep going.
Yeah.
What do you
That was
actually,
with acquisition, so
okay, with
yeah.
acquisition.
I did.
So this is you and more.
And more.
we assumed, I think, 3 acquisitions and some organic growth. There's another slide that assumes no acquisitions, but we always knew we were going to try to do something. So 10 million was really the goal within 5 years, and this slide in the top right is where we're at right now at the end of 2024. So
I'm gonna just put a big circle around this right here. So they thought they were gonna do 10, they're at 100? That's freaking insane. Can we give that a round of applause, please? That's sexy. Woo! And then look at the M&A EBITDA in pipeline. I mean, that's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, the potential you have and the opportunity ahead of you. Is there a slide you want to talk about? Like, I'd be curious when you look at after the 1 or 2 deals and now you're at 20 plus, like what's changed? What's easier now than it was before? What has given you the ability to execute at such a high level?
I would say
And to acquire so many people. You're like going to do 9 deals a year, is what we were talking about yesterday.
Yeah. I want to shout out our team. Not everybody could be here. We appreciate everybody from Kelso that came, but for me, this whole thing evolved from us literally being in that first business, estimating.
Because you were grinding in that first one. Like you were in it. You were operating it day to day.
Yeah, we were operating the first business. We had a couple cash crunches, and I'd have to go drive around and convince our customers to pay us the receivables that we were owed. And I'd sit in their office and beg them to pay us the money that we were owed because we had to do payroll the next day. So we don't want to make it seem like it was all roses for sure. We a lot of sleepless nights in those early days before we closed, but even after we closed. But over time, what's been really awesome is we've been able to fire ourselves from jobs in the business. And today, I'm really, really proud of our team. Adam's here, Seth's here somewhere. He's over there. We've been able to grow our capabilities because the business has been able to attract amazing talent. And over time, that's made this way more fun. Way more fun because we have talented people like Adam helping us with M&A, legal issues. Seth and the HR team we have 3,000 employees. There's always something that we need to do with supporting our field and our staff. We're recruiting constantly. How many people are we recruiting for right now, Seth? 150? 115.
Holy cow.
And that's probably...
Who needs a job?
That's probably only what's got to our desk at Kelso. There's probably some roles that the field just fills as needed. But for me, this has absolutely turned into something I couldn't imagine doing anything else because I've been able to fire myself from doing things by hiring people that are much better at it than I ever was. I was never the best mechanical HVAC guy. I was never the best construction guy. I was never the best anything in our business, but we were able to get amazing people to come join. And now this slide is a little representation. There's hundreds of people that make this possible, but we have a finance leader that we can count on in Mike. We have an operations leader. Some of you or many of you might know Adam Nebeker. He's been around for a while. We went to college. We did the MBA with him. Adam Carroll, we talked about. He's doing an amazing job. And Matthew from our HR team. Again, to me, that's what makes this really exciting is it leaves Steve and I to go fire ourselves and go back to the growth phase on what's next.
Anything you want to add here, Steve?
Yeah, I just say we've kind of gone through, I kind of think of it as 3 different lives of Kelso. The first one was Steve and I were running an operating business, and then as we did more acquisitions, started to kind of fire ourselves from running that one business to, hey, we kind of have this collection of businesses that kind of just reported up to us. And then the phase we're in now is kind of this team build out where, 2 years ago, Kelso wasn't really a company, it was a collection of companies, and this team has kind of helped us build Kelso into a company that's on the same systems and tools, and we still have individual brands, but they help drive a lot of the cross-sell and kind of the 1 + 1 = 3 of owning all these businesses together.
Yeah. So a couple things we talked about yesterday that I want to just hit quickly. You don't need to comment unless you want to. But when they bought the first one, there was a courtyard in there in Phoenix that the two of them were sharing, but Steve C moves his family from Arkansas to Arizona to go do this. And the family ends up living in the 2 rooms in the courtyard for a number of months while you all are grinding on this. So I just want to call that out. Like, if you think this is easy, if you think, oh, the company's not within 20 miles of where I live, and I don't get to start making $400K immediately, I'm not going to do it. Like, that's the wrong idea. Like, the amount of grind you all have put into this, I don't want to undersell. Like, yes, you got to do 100 million in EBITDA quickly, but it wasn't obvious that that was going to be the case January 1st of 2021.
We had a meeting a couple months ago, a celebration dinner for one of the companies that joined us, and somebody asked me a question about some of the early headaches, and I think I talked for an hour and a half.
Steve can talk.
I could have kept going, but there was definitely some tough early days in this thing, and yeah, I gotta give Jenna, Steve's wife, and my wife a lot of credit for supporting us. Steve didn't take a paycheck. I don't even think he still takes a paycheck from Kelso. So it's certainly not a given.
Yeah, so I think, let's talk a little bit about you bring on all the brands, are these the brands over there on the left?
Yes.
So today, your playbook, this is my summary of your playbook, I'd love to have you add color to it, but more or less, you will buy the business, but there is a clause where you ask the operator, the owner of the business to stay on. And you say, hey, you're gonna keep running the day-to-day operations of the firm. We will continue to augment the capabilities of the back-of-house team. We're not gonna fire anyone per se, but we're not gonna replace people at your location. Not every 26 of us needs a pick-a-roll person that's not associated with executing. So that's the thesis around who you're gonna go buy, someone who still will stay in the game. They're not just gonna walk away. So yeah, Phil.
Well, it's sort of related, and we'll get into the question as you need, Tyler, but how did your capital strategy evolve through your acquisitions, right? You got Peterson involved at the beginning, and then over time, every time you had another acquisition, what was your capital strategy in order to be able to get to that next acquisition? Were you funding it internally, or did Peterson keep adding more, or there were other, from commercial banks? What was your strategy?
Yeah, so Peterson's been our only kind of outside equity partner. They invested out of a couple funds, and
I think you've returned the fund.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, their payback's been phenomenal.
On paper, you gotta, everything's great on paper, so you gotta actually, we have to
sell at some point.
Sell at some point, someday. But we've refinanced on the debt side 5-6 times, and so we've started with, commercial banks suck. Like, good luck doing work. Yeah. So we've been, I don't even know if they know how to lend anymore. So it's kind of gone to the direct lending world. And so we've kind of started one group and then kind of outgrew that group and just did a big refinancing at the end of the year with kind of a larger syndicate of banks. And
they have a line of credit now that you all are using as kind of like a recurring
So we raise
facility.
Delay draw term loans now, so it gives us $100 billion, $150 million of capital at a time. We kind of spend that down, and then we keep going. And the way we've been able to buy businesses, it's the cash multiple is directionally aligned with our leverage multiple, and then the balance is funded through. We won't do deals unless there's a lot of rollover equity and earnouts, and so that's kind of allowed us to get to a place where we can grow almost forever without taking more equity to grow.
And let me just highlight that for a second. Like, let's say the purchase price is $7 million. They're rolling over 3 and you're giving them 4 or something along those lines, right? So contextually, the out-of-pocket every acquisition is not crazy versus the purchase price because there's that rollover element. Yeah, Justin.
I was just going to ask what that structure looks like. If you have benchmarks that you're looking for, how much you're wanting.
Is there a performance component to what that person gets?
How long is that earn out? How are you thinking about that?
pretty aggressive. That's usually a 3-year earnout, and most people don't like it and don't really care. So it's just, this is what we do. And so, yeah, it's a 3-year earnout typically. And it depends, like sometimes like if a business has grown a lot or like you can just maintain that level of profitability, like we're happy. And sometimes people will base the earnout on just kind of maintaining status quo. Sometimes, you know, somebody wants to sell, but, you know, the sun, moon, and stars are on the horizon, and they're going to 3x the size of their business, and they want to get paid today for that value, and we just won't do that. So we're like, we'll set earn-out thresholds that go higher that, like, hey, if you can go hit those numbers, great.
We'll talk when you hit the numbers.
Yeah, we'll talk when you
This
hit
is
the
the
numbers.
multiple you get at these numbers.
Yeah.
If you want to go hit those numbers and pie in the sky me.
Yeah,
Come
and,
hit me up in a
and
couple years when
we
you've done it.
typically structure it so even if they do hit those numbers, it's still lowering my effective multiple in the deal.
I think this is a super just important point to like think about how you've gone and done this. So like if someone's trying to copy the playbook that you all have ran, like what are the parts that you would say you want them to take, and what are the parts where you'd be like, we could have done this differently? Like what are the things that you would say, like as you run it back now, if you're starting over, what would you want Steve and Steve to know?
I'll let Steve add some thoughts, but my first thought is be an operator. Know your industry, operate in the space, know in and out, not just to run your business well, but if you try to go to someone to sell their business to you and you're not an operator, you're either going to pay more or you're just flat out not going to get a deal.
The key man risk is what you're really trying to protect from there too, right? It's like,
Some of the key man risk, yeah, but even if you're having somebody stay on, they don't want to be owned by somebody that doesn't know their industry. Not just from a spreadsheet,
yeah.
from somebody that knows.
Not some like 25-year-old in the suit who's coming to do the roll-up. Like, I think that's one of the things that we were just talking about this. Adam says he's had more steak dinners than he's ever cared to count because you always want to eat steak. But you guys will go and sit down and talk shop with the person you're going to buy, and it feels much more genuine than the person in the suit. Can you maybe like expound on that?
We sit down and we talk as operator to operator in the specific details as detailed as they want to get. And
there's nothing about how they operate their business that you don't already know.
We're not usually discussing, you know, what length of welds we're doing, and usually owners and operators don't spend their time doing that anymore, but they're spending their time in running the business,
Project
managing their
management,
financials,
yeah.
selling jobs, dealing with customers, hiring people, recruiting, winning new customers, that kind of stuff. But also, if they want to go a level deeper, we can, and we can go pretty deep because we're actually ran a business in this space.
Yeah.
So for my biggest takeaway for the group is if you want to do something like this, don't try to do it passively and go really deep in an industry.
And I'd say if you look at, you know, the lower left-hand corner, that's like the first business we bought was probably, if I had to rank order the quality, probably the lowest quality. I mean, it's a fine business, but it wasn't like this perfect. You're not going to find perfect at 3 times EBITDA, but it kind of got us into the space, and I think it's done well. It hasn't gone backwards on us, but it kind of gave us it was an entry point. I can't think of too many things where like, oh, I really wish, you always wish things could go easier and better, but there's no decisions, I think, looking back that like, oh, I just wish I would have fundamentally done that differently.
Okay.
Knowing what we know now, I think we could definitely do it differently when we started, because that first business, like Steve said, was maybe not our best one and probably has the most warts on it. But
Today, even like recurring issues today.
It just takes time to change businesses. You might hit your numbers, but there's a whole bunch of things behind the scenes that
Duct tape.
some duct tape, and but you don't get shots at the really good businesses if you can't really convince an owner that you're the best partner for them. You know the industry. Having money doesn't mean anything for people in this industry. They've got a lot of them are already super rich.
Would you say that you're offering top dollar versus your competitors that are bidding against them, or
No.
you're not their highest bid when you go?
The first meeting, we always say we're not offering top dollar. If you want top dollar, you can sell to somebody, they'll just give you the top money, and you can deal with folks that don't understand the industry.
Yeah.
That's the option if you want top dollar. And by the way, if that's what you're trying to do, we wouldn't want to be your partner anyway, because if you just want to sell the business and leave for top dollar, that's not what we're looking for. We want partners that love their business, that have invested in their brand, invested in their team. I don't want another business that has all broken down transmissions and a broken forklift in the back and a compressor that's been duct taped for 5 years and is gonna break
Because
next
he's
week.
been maxing EBITDA to sell.
Yeah, and everyone comes to us the next day and says, I need a raise, because the owner's been promising us a raise for 2 years straight and telling us, it'll come.
Yeah.
And then these guys have to deal with all of that, because that's what happens when you pay top dollar.
I think we also just sell our ability to close. There's a lot of independent sponsor folks that try to get into this space now, and like they get their foot in the door by offering top dollar and then can't close on the deal. So there's been a lot of situations where like,
You know your money's good.
our price is our price is price. I don't care what anybody else is willing to pay. Like, good on you. Like,
Yeah.
Godspeed, go for it. But like when that person can't get the financing, we're here.
McKay and then Phil.
How are you guys sourcing your acquisitions? Is it banked or are you finding them through other channels?
We're opportunistic. We know most of the bankers out there now. Most of them just send us deals, every week.
How many are in your pipeline right now?
Oh,
How many are you guys looking at and doing diligence on?
How many we're looking at? Hundreds. Rotating monthly, hundreds of them.
but you also,
The space has created a lot more and more opportunities. So
yeah.
Yeah.
But you also saw our pipeline when we started. It was like, how many was on there? Like 12?
Having a
Gotta
lot
start.
of stuff on your desk just makes it easier to say no to stuff, which is important.
So we spent a lot of time making sure we have a strong pipeline.
Yeah, so similar to what you guys were just saying, if you're looking at deals like A being the perfectly operated business, F being the transmissions that you replace, people haven't gotten raises, what are you looking at? Like how polished of the diamond are you?
Do you like the B's or the C's? Like what's your perfect, if you're taking that scale, like do you like buying the C's because you know there's room for improvement? You don't like buying the A's, or do you?
Probably a couple years ago, we would answer this differently. We bought a business out of bankruptcy. We bought a business on that list that should have been bankrupt. And those are really hard. And I don't know if we would want to do tons of those anymore, because is the juice worth the squeeze on those? Probably not. Unless there's some strategic component to it that we want to add to our companies in the area, or a service that we want to be able to add in the area. So we have a big strategy that is going to take us many years to execute on. And so
Could you go to the slider on the map?
I would say we like buying A's that look like
I
B's.
forgot to put that in there.
Sorry. Keep going.
Like, hey, they don't have to be in like a really nice office space or have the best systems, but we want A quality people that do really good work, that reference well with their customers. Like to us, that's an A. If they're a $50 million revenue business that's still on QuickBooks and maybe some of their systems are archaic, like that's the Kelso value add at this point. You're like, okay, we regardless
You're okay
of,
with arcane systems.
yeah, regardless of what systems you are on, we're going to change them to our systems anyway. We just want to make sure we have good people, good alignment. It's for us, it's all about who we're partnering with most of the time.
Yeah. So we're at $1 billion. The goal is to go to 10. We had this conversation yesterday. Like, do you really need to? Like, what is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, the goal is to get to 10. When you think about going to 10, well, I shouldn't say the goal, but you're not slowing down. Your goal is to get to 10, or you're going to go down this path. Like, how are you strategically thinking about how you do that? Are you prioritizing markets? Are you prioritizing people? Like how you're in some markets, but you want to be the national preferred partner in MEP. Like how are you thinking about executing against that?
Forgot to put it in the slide with our map. It's on our website if anybody's curious, but there's a lot of
Untapped
blank
markets.
space, untapped markets for what we do. We also did some very expensive research that told us this is a $500 billion market that we're playing in. So, and that was 2023 numbers, so it's only getting bigger and bigger. So our 10 billion goal is more like 1 or 2% over the next 10 years for us to get there. So for us, it feels very sustainable strategy of mechanical, electrical, plumbing. As long as we stay focused on that in all the geographies that we serve, we think we have plenty of market share to go do that. There's a couple public companies in the space, so we're not reinventing any wheels. And there's plenty of room for a lot of players to win in this industry. What was your question?
Yeah, that's
again?
great. Yeah, like how do you think about the strategy to grow? Like what, if you're saying here's where you're at, here's where you want to get to, like the steps along the way, I always call it current state, future state. Like that's how I think about when I think about these. It's like, here's your current state, here's your future state, here's the steps to get there. Do you feel like there are things that you don't already have that you need to acquire in terms of like skill set or expertise, or is it just more of the same? I'm just curious like how you think about that.
For us at this point, it's more of the same. The MEP strategy is it's hard to execute because you've got totally different folks that you want to be able to work together, and so there's a little bit of work that we need to do that. We've got a divisional strategy that we're executing on. Maybe I have a slide kind of on that. Not really, kind of industrial, but we have a framework that we're scaling right now, and there's just so much opportunity. We think we have a competitive advantage when we see bigger deals, especially if somebody wants a real partner.
Very cool.
Can I ask a question on that? And maybe this isn't the right question, but when you're talking to a business, you're not the top dollar. So what is your value add? What is it that the operator that's just looking to get an exit takes your deal over the top dollar?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna, because I assume most people didn't hear that. His question is like, why do people choose you over the top dollar? Like, what's the differentiating factor for you guys?
So the strategy we aligned to some public companies in the space. And so we're not reinventing any wheels, but a lot of our private equity counterparts have too much heartburn over things to do with construction. And we come from construction. We've aligned our investors to the risks of construction, and it weeds out most of our competitors. Big jobs, big companies. Surety bonding, insurance risks, large project risk, WIP management from a financial standpoint. We aligned our business purposely that way a long time ago, knowing that there was going to be opportunity there, and that just continues to play out for us. So most companies, when they're a fit for our strategy, don't have a lot of options. There's maybe a couple, and usually the options that they have are a strategic that's going to change everything in their business, or a investor that knows nothing about the business. So we're right in the middle. We're not trying to change everything, but we have resources to change things that need to change to improve the business, to de-risk the business. But we also focus on partnership so that we're not just changing everything for the sake of changing everything. And most people in this space are very loyal to their employees. And if they sell to the wrong group, those employees' lives are not going to be the same. Probably going to be worse. And so we think we've catered to making it an employee-friendly environment. We call it partnership. It's our first core value, and we think that weeds out a lot of our competition.
Yeah, Justin? Justin, then Brandon, then we're gonna stop.
Yeah, I got your partners that you acquire their businesses, are they rolling their equity into Kelso? Okay, so it's not an earn out that they're then getting paid later. And then
Well, it's two. So they roll equity into Kelso, and then their earnout is tied to their specific performance of their business over 3 years. So there's kind of like
Both sides.
both
three
sides.
components to it.
Yeah.
There's cash up front, there's deferred cash, that's a part of the earn out, and then there's what they roll into Kelso.
Yep.
And then have you raised any additional equity besides what you did on your very first deal?
No, Peterson committed to a slug of equity, and we drew that down over the first 2 years, and then have been able to debt fund, cash fund, rollover fund.
It's freaking sexy, bro. I like that smile.
Yeah.
I knew Justin and I were thinking the same thing. Okay, Brandon.
Yeah, it's a two-question question. The first one is, as you look at yourselves as a partnership, what is it that the two of you individually are like singularly the best at and singularly the worst at? Maybe it's a better question for your wives. But like, how does that yin and yang work for you guys? And then the second one for Steve N. I know that you have, I think probably of anyone in this group, maybe of everybody here combined, probably summited more peaks than anyone here. What is it that drives you to do that? And are there any parallels that you can give for this group about, what it's like to get to the top?
Sorry, before he answers, because this is just funny. Steve just twisted something in his body because he tried to go hike with that, Steve. So your question was very valid, but now go hit those two. What's the yin and yang, and then what's the peaks, and how does that apply?
He's during the deal process, he's usually referred to as the nice Steve, and I'm usually referred to as
Good Steve.
Good Steve, bad Steve. Like, I'm the jerk who won't pay him more money, who won't agree to that term, who, tells them their lawyer's a moron and has no business, practicing law. So I'm the bad guy, Steve's the good guy, and that works really well. And even when I'm not the bad guy and Steve wants to be the bad guy, he just throws me under the bus, and that also works really well.
Actually, one of our partners said that in our first president's meeting, that he was laughing about it, and he's like, oh, but you guys might not know this, but people say,
Good
and
Steve,
it
bad
stuck.
Steve.
We had a partner recently say I was a smart Steve, so I like that one. But yes, I do like climbing mountains, and I don't know, I've been attracted to just doing hard things. I find that like the joy is in the pain of doing hard things.
Freaking love that. Maybe just last thoughts for someone who's trying to walk this path. What words of encouragement, or like, one of the things I try and do with reference group is like humanize the person who's done the thing. Like, we always put people on a pedestal who've done something really hard, and we don't feel like that can be me. So could you maybe share some of the things that you've struggled with, or things that you've had to overcome on this process, like the imposter syndrome, or whatever you feel it might be, like something around that kind of line of thought?
I think Steve and I get a lot of enjoyment out of helping people go down a similar path, and whatever path that person decides to go do. But the folks that actually achieve doing something like this, you just have to start. You have to be willing to fail. You might have to fail many, many times, but you don't give up. You keep going. Eventually, you just commit to it. Whether that's a small business with an SBA loan, starting a business, it won't happen if you don't 1,000% commit to it. And I believe everyone in this room, if this is something you want to do, you can do. It's not rocket science, so to speak, but you just have to be willing to go put in the elbow grease and the commitment.
Thank you.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I got into private equity early in my career because I never thought I can do well and not be entrepreneurial. And then I kind of found myself being entrepreneurial. It's like, I always viewed it as like too hard, or like, I'm not that guy. And then like, you do it and like, you just going to work every day and trying and swinging and you figure it out. So it's like no magic Not a lot of magic behind it, except just doing it.
100%.
And if I could add one thing too, I don't think you have to go buy a business or start a business to be an entrepreneur. And I took a lot of joy out of the opportunities working for big companies. And we're trying to provide opportunities like that inside of Kelso for folks to build their management skills, their leadership skills, their P&L ownership skills, which, you know, if you do really well doing that, you can make a lot of money, and you don't have to be a 100%, 1,000% risk on entrepreneur. You just have to find organizations that support a culture like that. And the bigger we get, the more we need many, many, many people that are willing to go out into the world, in the field,
And run a P&L.
and go
and
run
do the
these
things that you do.
businesses.
Yeah, we have people in Kelso that were new to Kelso or people who sold to Kelso, and now they're building new businesses within Kelso. So like trying to keep that, you know, entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
like there's net new businesses just being created
That's cool.
from within.
We try to borrow the Amazon day one thing often because it is day one if you have that mentality, and you
100%.
don't have to buy a business. You just need to find the right organization where you can build a career like that.
Perfect. Can we give these guys a round of applause and thanks for them? My last just thought here for everybody is like, what I learned getting to know them is that the thing that I would say is find a good partner, find somebody that you yin and yang with. I think that's absolutely true with these two. My other just like shout out is like, you just start. You've heard this, I'm just gonna say it one more time. Don't be scared to start, because if you start, you're only gonna get smarter. Like, you lose if the sunk cost would have been nothing. If you guys don't go through, if you say Arkansas was a scratch, we're gonna go do something else, you know, I'm gonna go back and work at Walmart. I'm gonna just stay there. Like, the only thing that had to be true is you kept going. And because you did that, they're now sitting here in front of us today. So thanks again for that example. Okay, have a great day, everybody. Thanks for being here.